Welcome back to the Broker Power Up podcast, the AIM podcast with strategies, stories, and insights to help you close more loans. I'm Tommy Golightly, joined by Jonathon Haddad.
Sir, how you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good, man. Just I know we got a lot of moving parts
Oh yeah, it's
today.
been a week.
Yes, sir. Life continues to move forward, and sometimes you get a lot of wrenches thrown your way.
Absolutely. We have a lot going on today. We have the Broker Buzz, where we dive into the top posts of the week from the Brokers Are Best Facebook group and discuss what's trending, what's working, and what you need to know. Then we'll do a sales pitch training where John helps us become better salespeople, and we'll learn to stop selling, start solving, and how to pitch like a trusted advisor. Then we'll wrap things up with story time with John. But first, how we start every podcast, a fortune cookie.
Does it have a fortune in there?
Yes.
Are we positive?
Yeah, I see it. Made me second guess myself for a second. Make the crumbs fall on my pad. Okay. All right. You will experience joy in the beauty of the night sky.
I like that. I think after a long, hard day's work, I think after a long week of stress, it's funny. I actually, for me, over the weekend, I sat on my backyard, sat on the backyard, and I have a deck out there, and I just sat out back and looked up for a while. So that's a bit fascinating. That one popped up. I think it's a good one, right? Reflecting on a long, hard day, no matter how difficult it might be.
Oh, absolutely. And the looking into the sky part always typically puts things into perspective, right? Like all the things that are going wrong, or you're just some small ant in the form of the universe when you're looking out at the stars and stuff. Last time I did that was when I was camping, and I certainly experienced joy. But that'll probably be the next time, because whenever I look at the sky now, it's just clouds and nothing and a bunch of light pollution. So, but let's dive into the broker buzz with our first question this week. Hello. How are other brokers mitigating credit pull costs while staying compliant? We have been getting huge bills for people who have received pre-approvals but didn't move forward. Would love your tips.
Yeah, so this is a common occurrence. So based on your business model, everyone's going to be different here. For us and what we do, we take on the cost personally. So if it's my outside salespeople, they cover the expenses. If it's inside sales, we cover the expenses. So basically, we drive in lead flow, or they work their own sphere of influence. So I've heard all of that. What I have also heard that many people are doing that are working is they're having the clients pay for the credit reports, where you can structure it within inside of your credit system. There are a couple of nuances, so nothing difficult, but you got to make sure you're set up properly. And then your consumer can pay for it, and that'll offset some of those costs to you. Some people might say, well, John, what if a consumer doesn't want to pay? I know top producers. I'm talking people that do 40, 50, 60 million dollars a year in business that have clients pay for their credit reports. So I can't sit here and let you say to me it's no, that's not, there's no way a client wouldn't do that. It has to be, what are you willing to do to make this work? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Like, what are you willing to do to make this work? The other thing, soft credit pulls, leverage those as much as you can, obviously, and save some money on that front. But losing clients during the pre-approval process, it happens. So figuring out why you're losing them is another thing. Could be inventory, could be something outside of your control, could be an inspection. But at the end of the day, either you have to adjust and learn how to have the conversation about having them pay for the credit report, or figure out a way to increase your conversion and make sure you're not losing as many pre-approvals. Really boils down to those two things.
Absolutely. And maybe start solving and use conversation to make it a solution as a trusted advisor.
Yes, sir.
But number 2, I need some wisdom here. Family member is selling their niece a home. There's a gift of equity of roughly $200,000. Seller is being told he is responsible for the $200,000 of profit. He's giving the gift of equity. His accountant said he'll receive a 1099 for the profit. I've done this many times, but wanted to hear your experiences. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the revenue code. This is law. This is gifting from the IRS revenue code. I forgot the exact code it is in the IRS's documentation. But if you look it up on Google, GPT, type it in, it'll all pop up and tell you all the rules behind gifts. So you can basically gift up to $18,000 per year. That number goes up not every year, but number goes up pretty often without being paying a gift tax on there. However, there are a lot of other nuances when it comes. You have a lifetime gift, depending on the type of family member that it is, that could be treated differently. So there are ways where the tax there isn't implications from a tax perspective, but it's very specific on how to get non-tax implications when it comes to giving a gift. In this case here, you are in your best bet to trust the accountant on this. Don't try to go past the accountant. Do not give tax advice. I was just talking to a client about potentially paying points. It was a refinance, and I said, hey, potentially pay points. I do believe there's opportunities for you to write off some of these points. However, I am not a tax professional. I highly encourage you to call yours and make sure what I'm saying is in line with something that makes sense for you and your family. I don't know how taxes work. I'm just telling you, I know there's an opportunity to write off some points when it comes to your mortgage. So an implied benefit, but it's on the client to go figure it out. Don't pretend to be that person, for the love of God. Please, loan officers. Now, if you're a CPA as well, there's some loan officers that do practice when it comes to accounting. That's fine. You have the right to switch those hats as long as your consumer knows. I don't know the laws when it comes to dual agencies and can you play in both fields and talk to clients, be a loan officer and a CPA. But for this question with a gift, yes, y'all, gifts up to a certain amount, there are no tax implications, but the reality is there are real tax implications. If the person giving you the gift does not know that is a problem. So make sure you call the accountants. The IRS will get their money one way or another. The last thing you would want to do is be caught up in the mix 5 years from now because of a conversation and something you said 5 years prior. So please be careful.
Absolutely. Do not mess with the IRS.
No, that's why I was a little serious on that one, Tommy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No,
we're light on that.
Oh, I get it. I get it. That's a serious topic. Moving on to number 3. New to the broker world. After 30 years of retail and have a question. I understand the basics of borrower paid comp, but can some of you seasoned brokers tell me how you sell it, explain it to the clients with the large fee showing on the LE?
I tell them the truth. I mean, I'm pretty straightforward with it. So here's what I do. I get paid one of two ways. Either the lender pays me or you as the borrower pay me. If you as the borrower pay me, generally speaking, it's a cheaper amount than the lender paying me. So what I'll do is I like to give the client an idea of how it works. So, on a $100,000 loan, generally speaking, if the lender pays me, I make $2,500. So that's 250 basis point comp plan out there. Now, with you as the borrower paying me, in this case here, I do make a little bit less money. And in return, you're bringing a little bit less cash to close. So right now with borrower paid, I'm making roughly $2,000 on this loan, but that $500 is $500 less that you have to bring to the closing table. Does that make sense? Yep, that makes sense. Now in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see something that says lender credit. This lender credit cannot cover my compensation plan that you see on your loan estimate. This lender credit can cover everything else that you see. And that lender credit adjusts accordingly based on the interest rate going up or down. The lower I go in rate, the less credit you're going to get and the more in cost you're going to have. The higher I go on rate, the less in potential closing cost you're going to have and the less you're going to bring to the closing table, but your payment's going to be slightly higher. Mr. and Mrs. Client, between those options, which ones do you like more? You kind of see that y'all just be direct, tell them the truth. You're not going to upset people. John, what if somebody says, well, you make too much money? You want to know what I say every time? I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've heard that before because I'm not sure if I have, but I will say this. At the end of the day, I'm helping you secure a home for you and your family. A third of it keeps my company's lights on. A third of it goes to taxes. A third of it goes into my pocket. That's just how it works on my end. And I believe with the value and the service that we're providing, a third of this money is something that I am worth. And I love to continue to prove that to you over and over again, especially with the amount of times I take calls on the weekends, after hours. It's something I really pride myself on. So with that being said, let's go ahead and pivot right into the next thing. I'm direct. I tell people, you know how I am with that stuff.
I think that's the breaking it down into where that money's going really puts things into perspective. Because if they may initially think that, oh, all that money's going in your pocket. No, that's not how business works.
No, I wish.
But being independent mortgage brokers, it could have that appearance or that misconstruction, or just so laying it out to them plainly in that frame will help people put things into perspective.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's lender paid or borrower paid. It means exactly that. So either the lender is paying you. So the lender the lender you're using for this transaction is now paying you for this transaction. Borrower paid is literally the borrower is now paying you for this transaction. And that's the difference. I mean, it's really like it's that simple. Now, the confusion is the client. When you go from lender paid to borrower paid, it automatically goes on the client's documents, the loan estimate, and it says originator compensation right on that first line called line A, letter A on the loan estimate. And it does throw, on occasions, you'll see people get thrown off by it. But this is, you take, especially for our 30-year vet here, right? 30 years in the industry and retail, now you're switching to broker. I know it's not comfortable. Let me start there. I'm very aware that doing something for 30 years, the same where you don't have to showcase that, trust me, I'm not saying just get over it, you'll figure it out. I'm very aware you have to break a lot of patterns that you've built over a 30-year span. So let me start there. But the second piece of it is just learning how to rip that Band-Aid off immediately, because it's giving you anxiety. And if it's giving you anxiety, you're going to be thinking about it all the way up until the loan closes. You have to put yourself in positions as a loan officer to alleviate as much of that anxiety as you can. So that's my advice. That's my recommendation to you. If you want more on it, reach out to me personally. Send me a message, whoever you might be out there. If you watch this clip, I would actually love to help you, especially 30 years in this game. That's amazing to be in this space 30 years. And that's not easy. For those that don't know, this is not an easy industry to be in a decade, let alone 30 years. So
absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, if you are an AIM member and want your questions read on Broker Power Up, when you go into the Brokers Are Best Facebook group, use the hashtag Broker Power Up, and we will get your question answered. If you are not an AIM member, you can scan the QR code on this ad and follow the instructions, learn about all the great benefits, and become one. So on the other side, we'll jump into some sales pitch training.
Are you a wholesale mortgage professional? Well, then the very first thing you need is a community to help you and your business grow. With AIM membership, your community is right here. Joining our community means never navigating the market alone or operating without a safety net ever again. We are 16,000 members strong of united wholesale professionals. From rookies to top-ranking originators, all dedicated to supporting each other's success so we can grow together. Beyond entry to the best community in the mortgage industry, AIM membership gives you the resources, tools, guidance, discounts, services, and support that help you and your wholesale business grow, thrive, and most importantly, close more loans. AIM membership connects you with leading wholesale lenders and vendors, offering you exclusive access, services, and discounts that save you more money while helping you make more money. Never get stuck on a loan again with our lender escalation program. Grow your network and skills with the wholesale industry's best conferences and networking events. Get the strategies and skills of top originators and industry innovators with AIM's cutting-edge wholesale mortgage education, resources, and content. AIM offers all of this and more, starting at a low price of $19.99 a month. You heard it here first, couple cups of Starbucks coffee. For you to learn more and get started, all you have to do is visit aimgroup.com, AIME group.com /membership. Your community is waiting.
All right, welcome back to the sales pitch training section of the podcast where we're going to learn to stop selling, start solving, and how to pitch like a trusted advisor. John, what do we got?
All right, brother. So this one's for you. This is exactly that, right? How to pitch and start acting like a trusted advisor. So I'm going to give you guys a framework, and this can be applied to any aspect of your business and, quite frankly, any aspect of your life. If you're talking to people, colleagues, networking, your significant others, loved ones, family, friends, kids, doesn't matter what the case is. So, the word is advisor. That's the key word here. And I want you to think about that word advisor. And just remember that the main goal, clients don't want to be sold. They know they're going to get sold. I think there's a stigma around that all the time, Tommy, where sometimes salespeople don't think the client even knows they're being sold. I don't believe that. I believe people are much
People are aware money is coming out of their account.
They are, especially now in this stage, Tommy. Like, you've seen all the videos now, all the tactics and the tricks, and they've seen it. They've scrolled through at this point. So for me, just remember that clients don't want to be sold. They want their problem solved by somebody that they can learn how to trust. So your job isn't to convince anybody. It's to understand and uncover what the right solution is going to be for this client or for this consumer. So this is a 6-step approach, and the framework is the advise method. All right. So step 1 of the advise method is ask with intention. Start by learning deeply, not these surface level questions, not this BS. So here's what I mean by that. Are you looking to buy or refi? How many people are asking that question on the call every single time? Are you buying or refinancing?
Why wouldn't they know whether
That's exactly.
shouldn't
But
you know?
sometimes we get lost and we
Yeah,
don't ask the right question. Would you buy or refi? What do you know about purchase? Do you like to do purchases? How many times have you refied before? Rates are high. Refiing, I don't know if it makes sense right now.
Are they?
You see the confusion there? And Tommy, instead, the conversation, A, is ask with intention. So step 1 is A, advise, ask with intention. What's most important to you about this process? Monthly payment, speed, or peace of mind?
Peace of mind.
So now, ask with intention. That's A. D.
Something I can answer instead of a bunch of, not for lack of a better term, jargon of stuff that I may or may not know.
Correct. It is jargon of mainly stuff that the client's not going to know. They really don't. D. Dive into the pain. Uncover the problem that the consumer has right away. You mentioned being nervous about losing your 2.5% interest rate and moving to a 5%, moving to a 6% interest rate. What's causing that fear?
I have to redo my whole budget.
I hear you, Tommy. You see what we did there, Tommy, though? How many loan officers out there are avoiding diving into the pain? You know how many loan officers, when I was in retail, okay, the amount of cash out refinances we did was unheard of. And the data's still out there that showcases retail bone crushes cash out refinances. Not even close. They own, Tommy, 83% of the cash out market. Retail does. Okay.
That's a lot.
83% of the cash out market is owned by retail. Now, dive into the pain. Loan officers out there, call it out. It's not an easy decision. Imagine you have a 3% interest rate on your home and someone's telling you it's going to 4.5. Imagine you have to sell your home that you have a 3% on and you have to go buy a new one at 6.99. Call it out. Dive into the pain with the client. Don't let them think about it alone. These are the conversations that your clients have internally behind closed doors. This is late at night. And they're sitting down and you decided not to bring up the conversation. So let's just say, Tommy, that you and your wife, right? I have a chance to save you $1,000 a month, paying off your debt. We can do a cash out refinance. Your rate does have to go from a 3% to a 6%. But Tommy, I'm saving you $1,000 a month. But instead of me asking you, so instead, Tommy, I jump in excited to the conversation. I say, Tommy, I'm saving you and your wife $1,000 a month. You say, John, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And then I don't bring up the fact that you're losing your current rate We hang up the phone. You end up going home from work for the day. You and your wife are sitting down at the dinner table. You start discussing, hey, here's what we went through. It's what you and I have been talking about as a cash out refi. Then all of a sudden your wife says, yeah, but you know what, Tommy? I don't know if it makes sense to lose that 3% over 30 years, Tommy. I know we gotta bunker down and we got to get focused and we can pay these bills ourselves. And Tommy says, you know what? You're right. Now, if I would have brought it up, even briefly, if I would have said, Tommy, you're moving from a 3% to a 6%. I know that can be a little shocking at first. Can you tell me how you're feeling right now about this situation of you moving up 3%, even though I know you're saving $1,000? Because Tommy, I'm a believer that people buy on emotion and justify with logic, but the type of person I am is I want to bring the logic to you so you don't have to think about it by yourself.
Absolutely. That's what the advisor does.
Do you see the difference? And now if your wife brings that up and you're sitting down and I've had that conversation, she brings it up, he said, you know, I actually talked to John about that on the phone. And one thing he did mention that I thought at least we should look at is effective interest rate, compound interest rate, is whatever it is that the loan, but now at least you have one talking point versus the client that doesn't know how to articulate it the way you do as a loan officer.
Because you're not in that conversation between
correct.
you and my wife. Yeah.
So that's D, dive into the pain. V, validate their experience. Make them feel heard. Trust begins right here with validation across every relationship. That makes complete sense. You're not alone. So here's what I do, right? Here's how I make them validate it every time. Clients don't want to tell you they're nervous. And depending on the client, like when I get, shout out to the engineers in this world who make the world go round, but engineers get on the phone like they're ready to own the call, right? I know numbers. I know this. I know that. I know this. I know that. And at first, as a loan officer, if you're new, that's overwhelming because they are very smart. They do know numbers. They do understand Excel spreadsheets, probably better than you. Okay? So yes, you're a little like, uh-oh, does this person know more? They don't. I'm sorry. Engineers, I love you. You don't know more than me about a mortgage. You don't. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. So what I do with that process is I validate the experience. I always say something like this. I said, you know, Tommy, I just want to say one thing that I say to all my clients. Because all clients, no matter what, are always in this same boat, is that this entire process, you're going to feel nervous every step of the way. That feeling that you have in your stomach, it's not that it's going to go away. It's just going to get a little bit better every single day up until we finally get to the closing table and you finally sign your documents and get the keys to your house. And even at that point, Tommy, it'll still be a little bit stressful, but I want you to know that every client I talk to goes through the same experience. I just wanted to set that expectation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No,
how do you feel, Tommy?
Advised.
How do you feel? The tone of the voice, the way I calm it down, the way I slow it down. This is all part of you being the perfect salesperson. You want to practice perfectly.
Yeah, because emotion matters, and if your volume matters, and because it's what's lost in text, right? Like how people complain about text and you lose emotion, you lose tone, you lose that. That's why phone calls are so powerful, because it includes that extra emotion. And you can put that punctuation, you can put that question, you can have that calming voice opposed to the frantic, oh no, everything's falling apart. Know what I mean? You're concise in what you're saying. You're not fumbling over your words and you're speaking clearly.
You are. And then Tommy, what you do with this is you take it so much further. And this is where you nailed it. Then each client, you start to understand not every client has a perfect profile. So, not every client's got, Tommy's got a good profile. Okay, y'all. I'll just say that. I won't get into details, but Tommy has a good profile. Not everybody's Tommy coming into a conversation. Not everybody's going to have the perfectly smooth process. Sometimes you have clients that come in that have dings on their credit, but they still have the ability to buy a home, and they should. It's our job to advise them on that. Hey, your process isn't going to go like Tommy. Tommy's friend. Tommy can introduce me to his friend. Tommy said I had the best experience ever. Tommy's friend doesn't have the same profile as Tommy. Tommy's friend might have a little bit less credit, have a couple of dings. I have to set that expectation for that client, or else they're going to go to Tommy and tell Tommy, what the hell? You introduced me to John. Now, the next side of it, ADVI, illuminate the path. This one is the most critical and important in today's age of selling anything. Illuminate the path is you don't pitch a product, explain the path forward just like you're on a guide. Think of the best guide you've ever had. So let me give you an example. You're talking to a consumer and you say, based on what you've shared, I believe there are two potential paths moving forward. Path number one is a more short-term, bigger savings for you up front, but potential risk for you paying more interest down the road. Path number two does give you that long-term security that you mentioned you and your wife might be looking for. I'd like to bring up both of those paths with you, but I wanted to set the tone there. Sure. You illuminate the path. I'm guiding you. All right, here's what you're going to do. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to do a 30-year fit. No. No. We're not doing nothing. Okay? You're not. No. We're going to slow down. We're going to do this my way. That's illuminate the path. S, solve with simplicity. Guys and gals, for the love of God, stop making mortgages complicated. Stop going in through high-level Excel spreadsheets with, yes, there's a couple clients here and there that can handle it. We talked about the engineer. But going through APR, interest rate, and effectiveness, and what rate makes sense in a 20-year, a 15-year, a 30-year, a 25-year, you need to simplify the process. You ever go to a restaurant and you ever see at the restaurant when they have all of these different pages on the menu?
Yeah.
And you sit down and you're
Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, the Cheesecake Factory. And you look up and you go, oh my God. And you take 20 minutes to order. And then you go to a restaurant, you sit down, they have 6 things on the menu. And you're, piece of candy. You order within 10 minutes. You have an idea of what you want because they forced you to get focused. It's the same thing for us when it comes to mortgages. Solve with simplicity. But John, I got to make sure the client knows X, Y. Yes, you need to make sure they understand the basics of the mortgage. You need to make sure they understand the risk. You need to make sure that. I agree with you. But what are you doing going into every other piece of it, of the nuances? What are you doing calling out acronyms? What are you doing saying things like LTV, not loan to value? What are you doing saying things like DTI, not debt to income? Simplify the process and ask yourself, do you overcomplicate? Do you talk people out of doing a deal with you? You know how many people I've listened to that talk people out of doing a deal? Because there's silence on the end of the phone. Silence does not mean the client's not interested. And it doesn't mean you have to give more insight. You mute your phone. Mute your phone. After you present, make it simple, hit mute and wait. Live in the silence. Enjoy it. The client's just thinking. They're allowed to think.
Yeah.
They're allowed to just go through questions in their head. They don't think as fast as you when it comes to mortgage terms. They don't do this every day. So simplify. Solve with simplicity, my friends. And last but not least, earn the next step. Always end with clarity and confidence. Do not hang up the phone not knowing what the next steps are. So, Tommy, can I call you next week?
What are we going to be talking about?
Bingo. So, Tommy, do you think tomorrow would work?
What time?
Yeah, exactly. Solve with confidence, my friends, and earn the next step. Here's what we're doing next. Here's the email that's coming out. Just so we're on the same page, XYZ makes sense to you. Is that right? Moving forward, you're going to get an email from me breaking down 1, 2, and 3. Y'all,
I love that.
Advise method, my friends. Advise. Ask with intention. Dive into the pain. Validate their experience. Illuminate the pain, or the path, solve with simplicity, and earn the next step.
And I do want to double down on not using the acronym things. I've been at AIM here almost 3 years, and there are still acronyms that I have to Google.
Yeah, that's my point, man. And you own a house. That's my point.
Yeah, I did the process, and I still don't. But
Excellent.
If you want to become a better salesperson, live and in person with the best in the industry, scan the QR code, get your Fuse ticket, and on the other side, we'll have story time with John.
Fuse is just around the corner, believe it or not, another year down. And we are excited for the largest event of the entire wholesale mortgage industry. Fuse National Conference 2025 is taking its show on the road. Now emanating from Nashville, Tennessee, from October 23rd through the 25th. This event is all about sales, sales, sales. Don't miss the chance to join us in Music City for 3 days full of the most cutting-edge content we've ever produced, featuring the industry's top minds, leaders, and innovators. Access the newest tools and resources from wholesale leading lenders and vendors. Take part in our acclaimed workshop summits for free. Catch wholesale's rising stars in their very own breakout sessions. And of course, take part in the best and, quite frankly, the most fun networking opportunities you'll find in the wholesale channel. Join us to grow your network, your skill set, and your business at what will no doubt be the greatest Fuse conference yet. Go to fuse.aimgroup.com to sign up and receive updates when tickets go on sale. Secure your hotel room and get your Fuse tickets for free. That's a $600 value for the prices as low as $199 when you sign up for an AIM annual membership. Don't miss your chance to be there when wholesale history is made at Fuse 2025. I can't wait to see you there.
All right, and we're back for story time with John. John,
Yes,
the
sir.
floor is yours.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. All right. So today's story is a very special one, near and dear to my heart. This story is about some things we just found out about my wife, believe it or not. So we did this ancestry test with my wife, and she's never done one before. And she's like, "We're from Kentucky," is what she said. She's half Vietnamese, and her family's very Vietnamese on the half, and then the other half, they've been all over the place. She thought they were just from straight Kentucky the whole time. So we did this DNA test, and part of this DNA test comes back, and it turns out my wife's DNA goes back 5,000 plus years to the Vikings. And she actually shares very heavy DNA with these Ireland settlers from 5,000 years ago, and shares a DNA with 8 specific Vikings that did all of this stuff with inside of Denmark. She also shares DNA with Roman warriors. She shares DNA with the Iron Age, and it was crazy. We went down this entire path, and it was a beautiful situation my wife's never known. Believe it or not, we haven't even told her family yet. We're actually building out the story and reached out to a few people to build out the story, sit them down and share it and talk about their life. And we started mapping it out, and it is the most beautiful thing. It's something I've wanted for my family for the longest time, but we don't have a lot of that data and that history based on where my family comes from. A lot of the books and things were burned down in the Middle East, and so we don't have a lot of that access. So getting to see it through her eyes and watching her eyes light up about her history is something I never thought I would see my wife do. And now she's asking me all these questions, and now she's doing research, and she's digging deep, and now she's curious about her past. And she's curious about how she got here to where she's at today. And now she's curious about all the things that had to go right and or wrong in order for her to be here today. And I share that little brief story with all of you because I want you to think about all the little things that had to happen for you to be where you're at today. And then I want you to take that, and as beautiful as that is, to get to where you're at today, now ask yourself, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with what's in front of you right now? What are you going to do when you have a bad day? What are you going to do when you have a bad week? What are you going to do when it comes to your business? What are you going to do when it comes to your home life? What if your business isn't where you want it to be? There's a lot of people that counted on you there's a lot of people you counted on to be here today, and you didn't even know you counted on them. Matter of fact, it goes back thousands and thousands of years. But now that you're here, and now that you have the opportunity, what are you doing to improve your craft? What kind of curiosity do you have? What about the mistakes that you made in the past? What about those out there that said, I wish I worked harder during COVID? I wish I would have made more money during COVID. What about those people out there? So ask yourself, what habits, what things are you going to change? Because the people 1,000 years from today, that are counting on you to make sure they can live their life, well, we owe it to them to be the best versions of ourselves, to focus on our past, to learn from it, to stay focused, and to improve our future. That is my story for all of you. I'll share more of it once I start to learn more about it, because it is a beautiful, fascinating one, my friends. Take care.
I love that. And I may have to introduce your wife to my dad. That is what he's doing in retirement. He is going all out, learning all about our family history, and has learned so many tips and tricks of where and how to look. And
dude, when
he's
we
loving it.
hang this up, I will show you just some of it. And yes, I would love to pick his brain if he's doing some cool stuff with that.
Oh yeah, it's his retirement hobby. He's taking it on like a full-time job. It's really impressive. And we talk every week, and he goes over the different things he's learned about our different ancestors, and I don't remember them all, but because it's a conversation we have literally every week. But it's fun, and he's documenting it all, and so that people down the road in our tree will know.
That's what I want, man. Like it's something important to me, and I love that your dad's doing it. And I've been trying to find mine since I was about 18, and like I've actually found a couple cool things about my family. Like our last name isn't our real last name. We are actually, my grandpa fled through the Armenian genocide, which we never knew. No one ever knew that about him. So we don't even know my last name on my dad's side, our real one. So like I've been trying to learn. So when I saw hers pop up, I was so giddy. Like a kid, I was like, babe. And then by the way, y'all, my kids have now Viking DNA. What an absolute win.
That is pretty sweet. That is pretty sweet.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Broker Power Up podcast. If you found today's tips helpful, do us a favor, hit the like button to let us know you enjoyed it, which helps even more people see this content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring the bell to get notified every time we drop new content. Share this video with a fellow broker who could use a power up, and remember to lead by example, to lift each other up, to grow together, and most importantly, close more loans. Until next time, keep powering up.